You've been falsely led to believe that your lack of productivity is your fault because you're lazy, but I'm here to show you why that's a lie. I'm going to show you the real reason you feel stuck isn't about not getting active, but something much deeper. For the longest time, I believed this about myself. Whenever I procrastinated or avoided something important, I thought, I'm just not motivated enough, or maybe I'm just not cut out for success. Sound familiar? I even asked God what Jeff Bezos or Zuckerberg had said in their prayers that I wasn't saying. But then I started digging into the systems around us, the way our minds work, and even the society we live in. And what I discovered changed everything. If you want to keep believing that you're ambitious but lazy, that's cool. You can log off right now. Pretend this video never existed, and go back to being your jolly self. But if you're ready for me to show you the truth about why you feel this way, and how you can overcome it, then stick around. Before we jump into solutions, we need to understand why you feel like procrastinating all the time. In this video, I'm going to talk about 3 key things behind this, and trust me, they're not what you think. If your education system was anything like mine was, you'll understand what I mean by the system. When I started Form 3, which is grade 10 in some countries, we'd be subject to being put into classes according to our end-of-term results. Fundamentally, our self-perception and self-worth are deeply influenced by how we believe others see us. Several psychological and sociological concepts have been proposed to support this. Charles Horton Cooley's Looking Glass Self explains that our self-concept develops by imagining how others view us, interpreting their reactions, and internalizing these perceptions. Similarly, the concept of reflected appraisal in psychology emphasizes how our sense of worth is shaped by how we think others evaluate us. Your self-worth is often shaped by how you think others see you. If you were told you're only good at one thing, you might have believed it, even if it's not true. That's not laziness, it's conditioning. If you think about it, that means your mind was manipulated into thinking you can be boxed. You can only possess a particularly limited skill set according to how you are judged. You can extrapolate this theory to other facets of your life. Therefore, if you were made to believe you can only do science stuff, but you have ambitions to become an actor, the psychological effects of how you were viewed can put a mental barrier on you, making you think you're lazy when you're not. You literally just haven't managed to escape that matrix yet. Which brings me to the next thing, analysis paralysis. Analysis paralysis, or as I like to call it, plethora paralysis. It occurs when overthinking or being faced with too many choices leads to a state of inaction. Instead of making progress, individuals become overwhelmed by the sheer number of options, potential outcomes or steps involved, ultimately freezing in indecision. Consider how hard it is to choose a movie or series to watch on Netflix or YouTube, because there's just too many. Unless someone specifically points you towards a particular show to watch. That way there is immediate elimination of too many options. This phenomenon is rooted in cognitive overload, where the brain struggles to process excessive information efficiently. Ironically, the desire to make the perfect decision often backfires, preventing any decision at all. Sometimes you do realize the mental limitations that the system places around you. In trying to overcome these, we're faced with the need to be perfect, whether to stick it to the people who thought you couldn't do it, or it's an instinctive thing. It can cause stagnation, creating a self-sense of laziness when that is not the case. Scientifically, you're just overwhelmed. These mental barriers aren't isolated. They compound, creating a web of doubt. The analysis paralysis ties into the next barrier, the observer syndrome. Our brains are wired to mostly register the negative over the positive. This means we store more records of when we were told we were wrong than when we did something good. Over time, this creates a disconnect between what we want to achieve and the looking glass self. The self-image we've accumulated based on how we think others perceive us. This disconnect contributes to observer syndrome. This is a state where the fear of judgment becomes paralyzing. When you constantly anticipate scrutiny, whether from peers, social media, or even imaginary audiences in your head, it can lead to self-doubt and hesitation. Instead of pursuing your goals, you might hold back, afraid that any mistake will confirm the negative self-image you've internalized. This cycle reinforces itself, keeping you stuck and undermining your confidence. Not to mention how much social media plays a continuous part. We rarely get to see people start from the bottom, and that creates a sense that we need to just show up the image of perfection, which is very unrealistic. I'm sure you see the pattern here. You're not lazy. You're not unambitious. You're just navigating a system designed to overwhelm you, confuse you, and make you doubt yourself. In the next part of this video, I'll share simple, actionable strategies to overcome these. Starting with cognitive reframing. Rooted in cognitive behavioral therapy, it involves changing the way you perceive challenges or setbacks. Instead of viewing procrastination or fear of judgment as evidence of laziness or failure, reframe them as opportunities for growth and learning. Pairing this with Carol Dweck's concept of a growth mindset, the belief that abilities and intelligence can be developed can help you shift from self-criticism to self-compassion. For instance, if you're stuck in analysis paralysis, remind yourself that making an imperfect decision is a form of progress and a chance to learn from experience. They say the quickest way to success is through failure. This mindset reduces the fear of failure and builds resilience, making it easier to take meaningful action. Secondly, the Zeigarnik effect. This is a psychological concept explaining why unfinished tasks tend to occupy our thoughts more than completed ones. It can often bring up feelings of anxiety associated with thinking you're lazy. That's because you know you're capable of doing more, but you're not sure why you're not doing it. Typically, we choose to distract ourselves by mindlessly scrolling or dopamine juicers to escape these feelings, but alternatively, you can use this effect to your advantage by adopting a just start strategy. Even beginning a task for a few minutes can create mental tension that motivates you to finish it. For example, if you're overwhelmed by a big project, break it down into a small, manageable action. Write a single sentence, research one topic, or organize a small section. Starting the task, even in a minimal way, interrupts the inertia of inaction and leverages the Zeigarnik effect to keep you mentally engaged until completion. In simple terms, inertia is the tendency of things to stay the way they are unless something else makes them change. For example, if you push a ball, it starts rolling, and if you stop pushing, it keeps rolling until something like friction or a wall stops it. Inertia means that the ball wants to stay still or keep moving unless something forces it to change. If you're avoiding a task, inertia keeps you from starting it. But once you get going, the task becomes easier to continue. I'll share with you some of the people who acted as a push for me to finally start after 5 years. Andre Dackham's podcast, Neville Goddard, and Neuro Knowledge are some of who pushed me to start, even if I'm doing it imperfectly. That's it for this video. If you stayed and watched till the end, please consider subscribing.